over to you, Karishma, for your case study.
Thanks, Henry. Thank you so much. And thanks for giving me this opportunity today to actually reflect back and share back all the learnings that I was able to grasp in last 8 weeks of this amazing course. So before I further dive into what's today all about, I just wanted to kind of give a quick kind of a recap on all the things that my journey has actually brought me to from the start of the 8 weeks to actually today. And down there, that's actually my hero's journey, which helped me to finally land up my dream role. Actually, I've managed to get a role of product manager from product owner. So my journey so far, I have had a massive shift of mindset, mostly from going that solution driven to actually value driven. And I think that has to do a lot with me being PO for so long and mostly in enterprise companies that I always used to worry about solution and just keep delivering solution one after other. And I hardly worried about what value I'm actually going back and delivering to customer. It was all about just finish the deadline, get onto another solution. The second one was I had a shift of this prioritizing time and effort to prioritizing impact. Now, don't get me wrong, obviously time and effort is also a crucial element, but I think I used to focus all the time on just the time and effort. And I used to drive my MVP. If something is taking less time, let's just prioritize that. And I hardly ever worried about impact and other metrics around it. And that is, again, I think the shift mindset because of the nature of the environment that I was in. And then moving from the stack ranking features to stack ranking hypothesis. So again, I was someone who was just kind of working in a feature factory, going after one feature to another feature, which is slightly same like solution driven. But now I've actually had a shift in this, that what hypothesis am I building? What outcomes would I be generating? So now it's not about features, but yeah, I'm stack ranking hypothesis and saying what should be prioritized at what point of time. And then lastly, and most importantly, having no toolkit to actually now having my own personal well-defined product playbook, which I can actually utilize in any part of my job now. And yeah, that's my journey so far. So moving on to the presentation of it. So what we're going to cover today is these 4 key parts. So starting from how I started with identifying my problem and the acuteness of that problem. And then moving, once I had a good understanding of my problem statement, then how did I form a strategy around the offer that I can build to serve that the acuteness of the problem around, and then start validating that particular offer, which I'll dive into detail later on. And then the third stage will be covering about ideation. Now that I had an offer, so we started ideating and testing, and lastly, validating the product market fit. So this is a structure that I'll be wrapping around my whole presentation. So starting from the very first point, which is identifying the acuteness of problem. Now, my problem statement, what I was working with is, we believe that busy working professionals are currently struggling to find time to cook and are frustrated by having to decide every time what to cook even. So there were 2 very crucial pain points here. One was obviously the time struggle, and one was this ongoing frustration of the cognitive load that they had to take every time to decide. So our very first objective, now that I had my problem to start with, my very first objective was to just go back and actually achieve problem market fit, how acute this problem is. Is it even a problem with massive of chunks of the people, and with what kind of niche the problem is even sitting with? So in order to do that, I started interviewing a bunch of from my personal network and even from my professional network. So I was able to manage 5 user interviews from my personal network. And then I basically had a survey response. So I used LinkedIn as one of my acquisition channel. In fact, one of the most hit one, because I tried other network as well, but LinkedIn was most hit, well received. And I had a survey link out of which I was able to get 6 other people to fill in the survey responses. And yeah, that helped me to basically go back and validate what my niche is feeling around this particular problem statement. Once I was able to do that, and then what I started doing in Miro, the one on the left that you can see, so those are exactly the interview feedback that I was able to get from my personal network. I was able to club together the similar points and then plug them into opportunities. And once I had all of this, and I was able to actually create a product vision for my product through this very simple template that we make cooking stress-free and extremely simple for busy people. I wanted it to be really going back and just seeing that what are the core problems for my niche and just keep it simple to that. Now, once I had some high level feedback and once I had a vision to start with, then I went to the next stage, which is around forming a product strategy or creating a minimal viable offer. What that means is basically now that I had a problem, I wanted to create an offer which can actually serve the purpose to solve this problem. And I wanted to validate how authentic that offer is. So that is what this whole stage is about, validating offer market fit. In order to do that, what are the things that I did basically is, as I said in the last step, that I had the survey response. Obviously, we were at every stage of the time, I was still receiving different survey responses. I kept going back and then I reiterating on my minimum viable offer. It was never a process that stopped. So what a couple of things that I did was, I'll just take you slightly here. So this was my landing page. I created a landing page and then I started the one on the right, and I started tracking how many people are actually well receiving this MBO, and it's something that resonating with them and they're subscribing. That was a signal for me that it's actually resonating with them. I also had a couple of different tools like Google Survey, through which I was able to track different kind of MBOs and just test together, kind of an A/B testing, just go around and start validating different MBOs and see which is most well received. And based on all that, what I was able to drive is this final product strategy, or MVO, as I say, that we help busy professionals avoid feeling overwhelmed by providing personalized, customizable recipes for every family member. And some of the key results that helped me to validate this was basically, I had an 11.6% outreach to sign up conversion. And this was obviously calculated by the sign up page and also other people who reached out to me directly. The other thing that I did was I used Blue Ocean Strategy Canvas tool in order to understand how differentiated offer is in the current market. The other thing that it helped me to learn is, like, the market that I was in was a very competitive market. So there were tons and tons of meal planning services out there. So what really it told me is, like, I have to be really innovative, or I have to really hone on that one core value that I have in order to really differentiate out of this competitive market. And lastly, what I did was I was able to create a story canvas and a hero's journey framework, which helped me to put that customer or user hat at all the time. And something that I really loved was that the internal and the external villain, because a lot of these things always help you to go back and reiterate your MBO when you have that all the other understanding, what are the external factors will be affecting them. So once I had all of these, and once I had an offer and a product strategy, which was well validated, then, so this is just a snapshot of my Blue Ocean canvas and some of the points that I was able to actually differentiate against the other competitors. So I was able to go back, and then I had a final validated product vision, which is to create the simplest time-saving meal planning service ever. Now, moving on to the next stage. Now, up until this point, I have refined my cuteness of problem, I have defined the offer, and I have validated the offer. So now I wanted to go beyond and start testing the solution. So basically now we are entering into the ideation stage, which was around testing the simplest time-saving meal planning service ever. So that was my offer, and I wanted to test that solution around it. In order to do that, I started ideating, coming up with different solutions, and then prioritizing them. I started putting them on a simple impact effort metrics, just to give me an understanding and create that strategic roadmap, that what I can do now versus later. And once I started doing that, then I started creating a lean canvas, which was really good, and I will dive shortly into that. And lastly, created a customer journey map, which was actually helped me to put that user hat again and sit into their shoe and see that how will they walk through my product. So this is a snapshot of the strategic roadmap that I was talking about. So these are the ideation phase, then the prioritization, and then coming up with what strategic roadmap. On the right, we have got our lean canvas, which was a fantastic tool to give me that wholesome story that I can now pitch into any of my stakeholder, outside any people, in order to go back and walk them through my business plan. So, and this is the picture from the customer journey map, which was basically, as I said, that it's every single step that they would actually expect to do in my product and how they would feel like at each point of time. Once I had a customer journey map, it was very easy to then go back and start putting them into a wireframe, which is a very low fidelity prototype at this stage. I just used Miro in order to do that. And that's all about it. So that was objective 3. So now we had tested the solution. We came up with some low fidelity prototypes. And up now at this stage, we started going into creating a bit more high fidelity prototypes, or something that we can actually put in front of a standard user and get some feedback from them. So the objective of this phase was to go back and now validate the core value from the product that I've built, which is simplicity and time saving. In order to do that, as I said, so I started creating a bit more better version of high fidelity prototype. And once I had that, I started conducted testing, and I was able to get 5 beta users to test it. And out of the 5 beta users, three actually came back saying that they would be disappointed if they don't have this product. So that helped me to validate my product market fit, which was 60%. And then lastly, so that was, I used Adalo to actually create an no-code prototype, and I was able to do all my beta testing on a no-code prototype. It's just because it gave a much more relatable experience of a live product. And on the right, I've just put a snapshot of one of the feedback form that I asked them to fill in, that what is the main benefit that you see straight after the beta testing. And they were able to, a lot of them actually came back with exactly the one that I was going back and trying to validate, that yes, I'm able to say it's quick and simple, time and effort, flexibility, takes the thinking out of it. So it just helped me to boost my understanding that yes, that I'm able to validate my core value. This is what it's resonating with my customers. And it's just a snapshot of I was able to do with 5 people, and they're just feedback around it. And that's a version of my Figma file. And then I actually moved on to creating a no-code prototype, which is at the bottom. So going back and just seeing that some of the feedback that I received, things to keep doing. A lot of people kind of had similar feedback that yes, it's simple, it's intuitive, not overwhelming, flexible, nice experience, takes the thinking out of it. Something to improve. A lot of people did suggest some really good feedbacks, like something that I would love more to see, like for example, more time options, recipe rating, more options and ingredient, because it was at this stage, obviously, a beta version of product. And then like diet types, and one of the customer requested that they would love to have some like keto and vegetarian, that kind of diet types, and then video guided recipes. So all of that now putting together, that I received this bunch of feedback, I again went through the same exercise, started putting them into an impact versus effort to help me again now guide or shift and change my strategy roadmap again based on all the feedback after I received from the last stage. And then these are the user stories that I wanted to now look after into my future product, that I want to get more flexibility around the type of diet. I want to get detailed with pictures and video, because that really helps customer, and I want to have more filter recipes by ingredient. So I changed my strategy roadmap slightly based on the feedback that I received, and then I changed my key results on that. And that is the end of my 4th objective. So what are the key learnings that I had? Definitely investing time to understand the acuteness of problem by going into level of niche is super useful. Something that we were doing in this course was we went deeper into 3 level of niche, and then it just helped me to understand. Otherwise it becomes on a very top level where it might not be. And and that's it. That was my story.
Sorry, Karishma, you lost me just for 2 minutes. Just for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry. We've had such bad luck. My internet cut out. Just go back to the learnings. Just sorry, 1 or 2 slides back, and I'll edit the recording.
Hello.
Yeah, sorry. I was just saying, if you go back to the learning slide.
Yeah.
Just restart from here, and I'll edit the recording so that it's all smooth. So if you start again by just saying, and here were the key learnings.
Okay. Yep. And here were the key learnings that I was able to get in this whole entire journey of actually being able to create my own product. Was investing time to understand acuteness of problem is super crucial. Like if we invest a good amount of time in just diving into that problem space and understanding what your problem is and with what kind of niche it resonates with, it just sets you up for success. and then investing good amount of time in validating MBO. I cannot stress enough how important this stage is. Like if we get our MBO right, then that's it. It's a very simple ball game. I don't want to say it's a simple ball game, but it really helps you up to do a lot of your things much better way. Like if you have to spend time and time in reiterating MBO, please do it, because it's the most crucial step in my thinking, just right after understanding the problem. Thirdly, validating PNF without investing cost. It was so interesting to see that without investing a single penny, I was able to go back and actually validate my product market fit, which is fantastic, because a lot of time we end up actually doing a bunch of work and investing like into code and actually working software in order to validate PMF. We don't have to do that. And lastly, Blue Ocean Canvas or any other tool like that, which really helped me to understand like where I can stand out in a crowded market, like a meal planning service. It was a very competitive one, but I was still able to go back and think that, okay, what are the values that I can deliver that none of the other competitors are still doing? It just helped me to easily get that visual understanding. So those were my key learnings. And yeah, that was my journey. So thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you. Yeah, awesome presentation. Sorry, I thought, but luckily we solved that. Okay, awesome. So I'm just going to go through some quick feedback on the case study itself, and then we'll talk about just some sort of general observations from the last 8 weeks, things for you to sort of carry on focusing on. So if you just skip back all the way back to that first slide, the problem slide. Good. So I thought you gave excellent context at the beginning, well, even the slide before this with that sort of, outline, okay, what are we going to cover? You did what I call bridging really well. So you went, here's what we're talking about today. And here's the problem we started with, just signaling, hey, what's the next slide coming up, and what am I going to expect? Such an effective way for the listener to understand, like, okay, what's going on here, rather than, you're a bit lost usually in presentation. Because you're like, okay, I see this thing. I'm not sure why I'm seeing it or why it's important. So your bridging was very good throughout. You explained you stated the problem, but you don't explain the problem. If you go to the next slide, about what are the key points in here, and then you bridge very well again into the first set of objectives and key results. Good on the MBO. So skipping forward a few slides, very good. Your explanation was very clear. I was a bit worried. You started by saying, the MBO, the minimal viable offer. And I was like, oh no, you have to explain what it actually means. And then you did very clearly, what it is, why it's important, what it helps us achieve. Again, using simple language as well, which is really important because, again, it makes people understand what you're talking about. I liked as well, there's a point where you're using the mouse to sort of highlight some of the key visuals. It's a small thing, but it's really effective. If you've got, say, the discovery calls, you've got all of this data and small cards, you're able to draw attention. It sort of helps that storytelling aspect as well. I thought it was a really nice thing to keep doing. On the Blue Ocean, so skipping ahead, there we are. Excellent. It was great. Again, what is it? Why are you talking about it? What are your specific learnings? You talked about this being a busy market. The only thing I think you can improve with this, and I think actually in some other areas, just give an example. So you said, here are some of the key points. And I was like, okay, well, what were they? You don't need to give all of them, but, as with the discovery calls, just give 1 or 2 examples of like, here was 1 or 2 things that came up. Yeah, for example, just adds a bit of color to the story, right? So that me as a listener, I'm going to take away some specific key points.
Yeah.
I really liked straight after this, you recapped it's on objective 3. You went back and recap again. So we've understood the problem, we've validated the problem, we've come up with a strategy. Now, objective 3, we need to test ... You recap really, really well. I think it's a nice tactic for presenting. Lean canvas, again, good, but you could have highlighted a couple of key things. Revenue was the obvious one. Revenue stream is going to be a big question. You could even talk about key metrics in future, but maybe even recap unique value proposition. Now, obviously we're limited with time, but revenue is always a really key one, obviously, to talk about, particularly if you're pitching this opportunity to stakeholders actually in that context, you spend a lot of time on the lean canvas, right? Talking through each element of it, if not just presenting the lean canvas. Good. I love the last bit of the presentation as well. So just skipping forward to the sort of, the core value, and if you go objective 4 with, what was the solution, the focus I thought was excellent. And that was something throughout the 8 weeks, simplicity, times that you were very clear on that and you stuck with it, and it was reflected in the designs and the feedback as well. Right? That was reflected in the learnings that came through. I liked how you put these little screenshots in, these snapshots. Because again, it's storytelling. Because I was immediately reading them because you're curious, and what am I going to take away? Quick, simple, saving time, effort, these kind of things. Good. Yeah, no, the feedback's great. I think that's when you're doing your job right. Is if in the feedback, like that word cloud, you're getting the key words that are in your offer. So, we get a lot. Our promise at Prod MBA is that hands-on experience. So I love it when we get our feedback surveys and it's, what do we do really well? Hands-on, actionable, practical. The exact words that we talk about in our offer. That means you're doing your job really well. You're staying focused, which is great to see. I liked as well that you updated the roadmap. I think that's important. That continuous discovery, continuous iterative approach is something that, it's a great habit to have, to constantly be going back and improving things. And the learnings were very nice. I think it's really interesting to hear, particularly, the one around the MBO. I think it's so important. Like, it is essential to get the MBO right because it feeds into what, everything. But it's very hard. You don't get that learning unless you actually do go through it like you have. So it's like you've come up with a USP, you've put it out there, and you've seen that actually, if you stay focused on this thing, then you're going to get results very quickly. So that's going to be a really powerful learning for you to have for the rest of your career, actually, which is great to see. Good. Yeah, and then just zooming out, I think for the 8 weeks, well, for the final point on this, I thought it was excellent. I think your presentation skills were definitely one of the best, really top 3 actually of the 22 of this cohort. Just very clear, engaging, good bridging again, good examples. And on the 8 weeks, I think it's, I've seen a visible improvement in you sort of stepping up in terms of the understanding that strategic side of things, which I know is new to you at the time. I think at the beginning you're a little bit overwhelmed by things of, like throwing in at the deep end, right, with products, real product stuff. But I think once you sort of did that blue ocean, then it was clear that you'd found a unique thing, you'd got that, you'd done all the research to back it up. And then you seem to be a lot more confident in focusing on that unique value and then going after that, which I think was great to see. And I think the mindset shift you mentioned, that's, again, I've seen that, but it's great for you to be aware of that. That's going to be the most important thing. Frameworks are great, but just that mindset shift, to always be questioning and probing and looking for, how are we zooming out enough? These kind of things are going to set you in very good stead. And final point, I think, maturity. It's not easy to, it's easy to sort of follow along passively, but I think you grasped, what are we trying to do with products? We're trying to really push and find that unique position of value and then be very focused on delivering it, which you did really well. Again, it shows a really good maturity, which again is going to set you in very good stead. And I think, great, you've got a job out of this. That's what we wanted. I think it probably reflects a lot of the hard work as well. And the next step is just, really trying to make sure that you're pushing away from execution towards the strategic work. It takes time. It's not something that will happen overnight, but that's, very much the path you're on now as well. And I think, you put the work in with this. You've shown perseverance with this. I think you'll be fine showing perseverance with the day job as well. Any sort of final thoughts from your side, Karishma?
No, I think that kind of just summed it up for me. Thank you so much, Henry. That was a fantastic feedback. And it was a great achievement for me to be able to actually even get my hands on no-code prototype. I was never someone who even did even a line of design. So for me to actually have a no code working prototype and testing that with random users, like some of the users that I tested were literally like, I never met them. I had no idea. So I met them through LinkedIn. And so it obviously put me in an uncomfortable space, but at the same time, it gave me more confidence because now these different set of people who have no idea about me, they are giving me honest feedback. So it was amazing to walk through this whole journey. And yeah, obviously mind shift, like the whole thing that I was talking about in the start, like how I've changed, my whole thinking has changed. And I'm no more just going after one after other, what solution next. It's going back and just reflecting on what is my MBO, what is my strategic roadmap, and how I need to progress on that. So it's not just solution after solution. So it has been a fantastic journey for me personally.
No, that's great. And as I said, like I've seen it. So I think it's great that you've sort of felt that big transformation. I think now it's just keep pushing, finding the right opportunities, and at some point something's gonna click and you're gonna be able to really put everything into practice. And I think really, eventually the goal is always to be the one that's leading the vision, right? Leading the strategy.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think just building towards that now and just being very relentless in that pursuit as well. Good. Well, it's been really fun actually doing the sessions with you as well. And we'll stay in touch over Slack as well. Let me know how things are going in the new job as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Henry.
Thanks, Karishma. Have a good day as well. Speak soon. Bye-bye.